So Dennis Prager, God bless him, he is still recovering from a very bad accident. Please do keep him in your prayers. His Hebrew name is Shmuel Nehemiah Ben Hinder. And he was interviewed by the Free Press about everything that's going on in the world, and in particular, the disturbing rise of Jew hate, conspiracy theory thinking, frankly, anti-American sentiment, even though they claim to be America first, from parts of the conservative right. The Groypers, the Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. And don't forget, Dennis, I'm sure, would have had dealings with Tucker Carlson over the years. And of course, PragerU, which was, I think he's the president of and the inspiration behind the organization PragerU, this educational media organization in America. Candace Owens used to work for it. And then she worked for the Daily Wire. And Dennis Prager, God bless him, has always been so diplomatic, and while at the same time, as the craziness of what Candace has said has become more and more pronounced, he has pushed back on it. He talks about what Candace and Tucker have been doing to the Free Press in quite a bit more detail, and I think this is just really worth watching because his insights are always golden. Have a watch of this conversation.
And examples of these unhealthy developments on the American right would include assertions that American Jews are all Israel first, that Israel was somehow involved in the murder of Charlie Kirk, that American support for Israel is being elicited by blackmail over Jeffrey Epstein's crimes, that today's Jews aren't the real Jews of the Bible, as Tucker Carlson recently suggested. And of course, Tucker Carlson's most recent claim to his millions of viewers that Chabad, the Hasidic movement within Orthodox Judaism, was somehow involved in America's decision to strike Iran. And I wanted to know what appears to be happening from your point of view. These are not ideas we saw emanating from mainstream voices on the American right for generations, if ever. What is going on?
Nobody knows the answer. What animates Tucker Carlson to have this? If anybody has Jew first or Israel first, it's he and Candace Owens. They're the first people they blame for whatever happens, including Charlie Kirk's murder, for example. By the way, just to give people an idea of Charlie Kirk and Jews, Charlie Kirk's last book, published posthumously, but which he finished before he was terribly killed, is Stop in the Name of God. It is an argument for keeping Shabbat, not Sunday, Friday night to Saturday night, as Jews do. He turned off his cell phone for those hours, as an example. And he dedicated the book to Dennis Prager because he listened to all 245 hours of my Torah commentary that are available. He called me almost every week for years to discuss with me what he had just heard in that. We last spoke together at Arizona State University. There were tremendous protests against both of us speaking. And they spoke about how Charlie Kirk will speak hate. Charlie Kirk's entire half hour, every minute of his half hour, was devoted to making the case for Christians to observe Shabbat.
Wow.
Okay? That was his hate-filled speech. This guy was the opposite of an anti-Semite. He was probably a philo-Semite, a lover of things Jewish. So I can't explain Tucker or Candace, but I can only say this. What they are doing is dividing the anti-left right. And since the left destroys everything it touches, and that's its moral record, dividing the right means allowing the left to continue its nihilistic venture throughout society.
You know, what's interesting is that the, Tucker Candace worldview that you've been describing is so dark. It's so damning of America. And I wonder, what is the antidote to its growing popularity in this country? What do we do?
Oh, the antidote is courage. It's always the antidote to what is bad. People have to come out and say they're advocating bad, indeed evil ideas. When given another example is Candace Owens in her very long dialogue with Tucker Carlson said near the end that Israel is the demonic country. In other words, it's the most evil country on earth, that she will never support it, and so on. I mean, these are incredible statements. Israel is one of the most decent societies in the world. The accusation that it's an apartheid state and committing genocide, these are libels. They're not true. There are more Palestinians, there are 5 times as many Palestinians today as there were when Israel was founded. That's not an effective genocide. There is no notion of committing genocide. But what are you going to do when Hamas has in its charter the eradication, the annihilation of the Jewish state of Israel and its Jews? Well, what is Israel to do? People say, well, they shouldn't be bombing any civilians. Well, as it happens, there's no way to know who is Hamas. It is a war crime not to wear uniforms. They don't wear uniforms. They wear the same clothing as civilians do in Gaza. So there would be no way if Israel could pinpoint. Israel sends leaflets. We will be bombing this apartment building. Leave. How many countries have ever done that in the history of warfare? The head of urban warfare studies at West Point, you can find this on the internet, has said that Israel is the most moral society that has ever waged urban warfare, that it has sought to avoid civilian deaths at cost of their own lives.
Which I disagree with, by the way.
And then we were told about genocide. Iran, in the meantime, had a conference on denial of the Holocaust. I don't know if you remember that.
Yes.
They had a whole conference where they would give an award for the best illustrations mocking the idea that there was a Holocaust.
It's hard not to, think about the fact sometimes that Candace Owens, probably one of the most prominent and effective anti-Semites in America, or at least someone who has spread blood libel against Jews more pervasively than almost anyone else, of course, got one of her major starts with you at PragerU. I think, you helped her career tremendously in the early years when she wasn't spreading these blood libels. And of course, then after you, Ben Shapiro, at the Daily Wire, hired her and helped give her career another boost. And I'm wondering, is there a sense of betrayal now?
I'm sure there is, and there ought to be. I personally don't walk around with it. It's not my outlook on life. But yes, of course, it's a betrayal. She would answer that her values have changed, and it's not a personal betrayal, but it's rather an alienation from the values that PragerU and Daily Wire have. All right, so fine. So I don't personalize these matters. However, I would direct all of your listeners to my 7,500 word open letter to Candace Owens. I spent weeks going through her videos and then answering some of the charges that she made. There were no attacks on her, but it's a very important document which will leave the reader quite convinced that she's making stuff up.
I have to tell you, when I read it, and it is a tremendous letter. When I read it, I was struck by how incredibly generous you were to her in giving her the benefit of the doubt over and over through the letter.
Yeah, because I will gain nothing. We will gain nothing with ad hominem attacks. That's why I've never called her an anti-Semite. It doesn't help. All I could say is she is spreading more libels about the Jews than anyone since medieval Christians said Jews slaughtered Christian children to use their blood to bake Passover matzah. That's more effective than the anti-Semite label, in my opinion, anyway.
I think
he's a good man, Dennis. And, the way that he's so gracious and just focuses on the facts and the outcomes of what people are doing. And you know what? I have to say, he's absolutely right that should be our approach. When it comes to protecting our security, doing what we need to do on the military battlefield and all of that, absolutely. One should be completely unapologetic there. But when it comes to conversations, we don't need to go into ad hominem attacks. That's what they do. If the Jewish people are meant to offer light to the world, our response to darkness shouldn't be using their tactics. No, we should just continue to shine light and truth and brightness and morality for all those who are willing to see it. And you know what? It's also, size, I think of the dynamic a bit like a teacher and a student or a parent and a child. When the child or the student has a tantrum, you don't compromise on your beliefs, you don't compromise on who you are, but you certainly don't descend to their level of tantruming and name-calling and all of that. You state the truth, you set down the law, but actually, the thing that I think potentially has the greatest chance of making people think twice, alongside sharing the truth, is by showing that you're a mensch, as we say in Yiddish. Showing that you're not looking to play these dirty games. And this, I think, impresses people on many levels. When you hold your cool in an argument, you don't lose your cool. People are impressed by that, even your enemies. It shows a sense of security. Constantly needing everyone's approval, validation, attacking people, that shows insecurity. And the truth is that my best sense of what's going on, certainly with someone like Candace, she's not motivated by what she thinks is the truth. It's just a guess that actually this is coming more down to dark emotions, resentment, jealousy, envy, all these kind of dark emotions that the rabbis told us is what has plagued the anti-Semites throughout history. It's about envy, it's about hatred, it's about emotions, not about logic or rationality. And so the answer to that can't be to play by their same playbook. Don't forget, by the way, that if you look at what she's doing, what Candace is doing with Erica Kirk, it seems to be like when she said a few weeks ago, hey, Erica, why did you never mention that I was there when you first met Charlie? Seemed a bit of a strange statement to be saying that. Why should that be relevant? It's relevant to someone that may have perhaps have wanted Charlie for themselves. I don't know. But what I thought was, well, maybe this is coming from a place of emotions. Jealousy, resentment, envy, whatever. Don't know, I'm not a psychologist, but it would certainly align with what we were told centuries ago by the rabbis of the Talmud about the nature of anti-Semitism and darkness more generally. Talking about dark ideologies and dark emotions, right? We're told it's all coming from the same place. It's coming from the worst recesses of the human mind, the human psyche. And so the answer has to be to shine more light, to stay grounded, and just keep sharing the truth with a smile on your face. And God bless Dennis Prager. He has been doing that for decades, and he could all do with our prayers right now. So please do keep him in your prayers. Shmuel Nehemiah Ben Hinda is his Hebrew name. Also, if you haven't already, please do hit the subscribe button on our channel. Please like our videos, comment, hype this video, because it really helps us to get into the algorithm and get the word out. And lastly, before we finish, I have to mention to you that one of the things that Candace and Tucker and others push time and again is they say, I've got no problem with Jews. I've got no problem with Judaism. It's Zionism I have the problem with. It's Israel. This is a false separation. And in our new JTV Plus documentary called Zionism and Judaism, The False Separation, we debunk this myth comprehensively. Have a watch the trailer, and if you want to watch the full thing, just click on the link below in the video description. I'm not against Judaism, I'm just against Zionism.
It's not Jewish, it's Zionism.
Judaism and Zionism are completely separate.
You know, Judaism is a faith, Israel is a state.
You can be Jewish without being a Zionist.
Zionism and Judaism is totally diametrically opposed.
I'm sure you've heard this before, from protesters, from politicians, from even well-meaning people trying to navigate the Israel-Palestine debate. But I'm here to tell you that this separation is complete nonsense. It's a comfortable lie. The kind of lie that sounds intelligent but collapses the moment you actually open this book, the Torah, the Bible, and study Judaism on its own terms. In this JTV Plus documentary, we're going to tackle this myth head on. We'll actually look inside the Torah and see how in the very first book, Genesis, there's no mention of law or religion. It's all centered on the promise of a specific land to a specific nation. We'll trace how Judaism, not modern politics, but Judaism itself, is structured around one obsessive, relentless, undeniable claim: the land of Israel belongs to the Jews. We'll reveal why the building of a nation in the land of Israel is an indispensable part of the project of Judaism. Why Judaism is not a religion, it's the divine project of a nation in a land. We'll discover how the Torah preemptively answered the colonization accusation that wouldn't fully materialize for another 3,000 years. We'll explore why, if the land is so central, Jews had to spend thousands of years in global exile. We'll unpack what Zionism actually means, and how anti-Zionism doesn't just contradict Israeli policy, it contradicts the fundamental architecture of Judaism itself. For some people, this is going to be uncomfortable viewing, but by the end, we'll prove beyond any reasonable doubt that Judaism and Zionism are inseparable. To watch this JTV Plus documentary and access much more premium content, click on the link in the video description.